There is no one more inspiring to me than the woman sitting in front of me. I mean, she's been through a lot in the last few years. She is a boxer and she trains people. And she's been through some tough times like a car accident and a lot of other stuff happening. But within how many days were you back in the ring?
12, sparring.
12 days back in the ring, and it was a serious accident. It could have been fatal. And I knew then that I just needed to talk to this girl, and she's in front of me, and her name is Cyla Maguire. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you? Actually, I'm great. I'm really great.
Yeah, well, you look a lot better than you had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, huge, massive amount of stuff back at that time when the accident was. I just before going, I'd just been through a small breakup. I was getting ready to go to Europe and travel on my own, and I just finished. I had my first pro fight at the end of the year before, so I was on this rampage of life change at that point in my life, and there was a lot going on, and the accident was a big halt to that. Was supposed to be a big halt to that at that point. I quit my full-time job. I became a PT and worked for myself. And
Doesn't it take an accident to do that?
It does, yeah, it does. And for me, I think also being told that I can't do something is when I decide that I will do it anyway.
Right.
But for me, getting back in the ring was all I knew. Well, it's all I.
Yeah.
Actually, it was all I knew. It's not all I know now, but it was. It was all I knew.
Yeah, because last time I saw you, you had that was going on. You split up with a relationship you were in for quite a while.
Yeah, a few years on that one.
A few years. You were going to Europe.
Yes.
Because I remember I was going after you.
Yes, that's right.
So tell us about you brought up the car accident. What happened?
It was my fault. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It was, I was just driving down a back street, going to a friend of mine. Actually, I wanted to drop off a present for her daughter. And I was late, as I normally am. I always think I have a lot more time to get places than I don't. But apparently when people who do that are intelligent, so I'll take that one. But we were driving along. I was driving along and I had a watch on that actually didn't work, but it matched my outfit. And it was turned this way. And I've looked down, I've turned it, and I've looked up and smashed straight into the back of a four-wheel drive. Ooh. So what happened was the four-wheel drive was turning right, and there was a car between us, and the car between us obviously didn't see him either, but because he was a four-wheel drive, he could dart out and around. And for me, it was too late, and I was going, 70 kilometres an hour straight into the back of a car. And I had a little Holden Barina at the time, and he had this massive four-wheel drive, and it just crumbled all the front of my car. The airbag didn't go off because the line got split. My chair got separated from the bottom to the top, and I had direct impact on my hips, my ribs, my spine. But I was able to get out of the car because I was in shock. And I called a friend of mine, Josh, very good friend of mine, and he said, "Whatever you do, just don't sit and stay in the car. Get out of the car. I've got a tow truck driving away. I'm coming to you now." So he was that quick in getting it organised. And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm fine. I was still walking at that point, and I had blood on my face.
Adrenaline.
The adrenaline was just going through me. And then my hips started burning, and then I couldn't start feeling the left side of my body. And I'm giggling because there's a funny thing that I was sitting at my friend's house crying, and her daughter was so concerned. She was only 10. She's like, "Oh, Auntie Kyle, I'm just so worried about you." A week later, she goes, "You should have seen your face when you're crying. It was so ugly." Anyway.
How old was she?
She's 10 now. Okay. So she was 8 or 9. She's like, "It was like this."
They speak the truth.
Oh, I was like, "Thanks." She goes, "It was hilarious." She goes, "I was trying not to laugh because I could tell that you were very upset." And I was like, "Thanks, babe." Anyway, I even went back to their house, and my friend's husband then took me to hospital because at that point I couldn't lift my left arm, and my legs weren't moving when my brain was telling them to move.
Oh, okay.
And it was scary. Like I thought I couldn't feel my toes, and I knew that I was telling myself to walk, but I couldn't lift my leg. And so we went straight through. Well, we went to an after-hours clinic first, And they're like, what are you even doing here? And Josh took me to the hospital, or his wife did. And that's when they were extremely concerned because then I started losing feeling in the left side of my jaw and down my neck and into my left shoulder. And I say a lot. I realised in that moment that I was then feeling the pain and I was in panic. So I was...
This was how long after your accident?
It was about 2.5 hours later.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the kind of person I am, right? Firstly, I have friends who are paramedics. I didn't want to call an ambulance. I can walk. I don't need an ambulance. They need to be saving lives, was my first thought. And they were the first people to say, are you crazy? Like, you are so lucky that there wasn't some deeper damage, like at this point now down the track, that could have happened. And I was like, but that's always been my mentality, you know, like you just get up and you get on with it, because there's people who actually need help and there's people who are struggling out there. And I went into the emergency, and even whilst I was laying in the bed in emergency with a neck brace on, and they'd cut my clothes off and everything else, because I lost feeling in my legs at that point. Still to this day, I don't know whether that was because of panic or because I had, you know, swollen nerves or a lacerated spleen and broken ribs and everything else that went with it. And I was still said to the guy in the emergency, I'm so sorry to put you out. Like, I'm so sorry to put you out. Like, I know there's, you know, there's probably sick children in here and I'm just taking up another bed and I'm so sorry to put you out. And he's like, are you serious? And as I replay this back to myself, I realised that even in a moment when I needed something, I still refused to admit.
Sounds like you've never put yourself first.
Ever. So that car accident was a major wake-up call for me, that was a huge wake-up call. So I was in hospital then for 4 days afterwards in a neck brace. I had to pee into a bloody pan on the bed and have a catheter in and all that kind of thing. And, it was really confronting as well. I don't have family. I'm a lone wolf, and I have been since I was a teenager.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah. So I have been since I was a teenager. And so for me to ask for help or expect help isn't an easy thing. So after going through that process, I was in I forced myself to get out of bed and I forced myself to start walking, and I pretty much begged them to let me leave the hospital because there's a hell of a lot of illness in there.
I know.
And I'm a very fit, healthy person.
Yeah.
With a resting heart rate of 48. I was like, I don't want to be surrounded by death. You know, an old lady died next to my bed. You know, she was elderly and she was, you know, and it was sad and the family were crying and I was laid there not being able to move, watching this mourning family in and out, and I was like, oh.
You're just being reminded that you're sick all the time.
Exactly. Get me out of here. So I went home and my work were great. They refused, at that time I was still in corporate, in the corporate world, they refused to have me back until I had a doctor's clearance. And I was like, I'm fine. I go into the doctor's surgery. She's like, you have a lacerated spleen. You're not fine. You're going home. And I was like, what do you mean? I can't sit in that bedroom on my own, because I was on my own, all day, all night, thinking about how sore I am. This is ridiculous. You know, I knew that I was going to Europe a month later. I was turning 30.
It was a big time for you.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, there is no way in hell I'm going to sit inside this house and not move. So I got up 2 days later and just went back to the gym. And that's when I saw you there. And I was running a boxing class, I think. Or was I boxing? No, I was training.
You were training?
Yeah. I was back shadow boxing and training, and because I don't ever like to think, I used to think that if I didn't move, I would lose the ability. I would lose the skill.
Right.
I would forget it, you know. And the previous year through PCR, I think it was the first Perth Corporate Rumble that I coached alongside Glenn, I had sore wrists. And I thought, yeah, this is normal. It's normal to have sore wrists when you hold pads, I don't know, sometimes 10 hours a day. It's normal. I had sore elbows and I was like, yeah, this is really, it's normal. Had sore ankles. Maybe I need new shoes. And then one day I couldn't get out of bed. I had sore hips. I tried to get out of bed and I fell on the floor. Again, I was home alone. And I thought, am I fucking having a stroke? The left side of my body went. This is before my accident. The left side of my body went. My hands.
Hang on, this is before?
This was way before. So this was like 2 years previous. Oh, sorry, the year previous to the accident. Yeah, because I went to the breakup afterwards. I was still with my ex-boyfriend at the time then.
Yeah.
But he was a mate of mine for 10 years, so it wasn't really we both went into that not knowing that we'd lose our friendship, which sucked, but, it was So anyway, we had gone down on a camping trip or on a jet ski trip, and I had got Ross River virus, and I didn't know that I had Ross River virus. This is what I'm saying about how healthy I am, right? Like I had Ross River virus. I didn't know. I went to get up one day. I fell flat on the floor. I thought I was having a stroke. My jaw was stuck like, and I couldn't move my hands. Every single joint in my body was scrunched up.
You knew something was wrong.
I thought I was having a stroke.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's obviously the first thing you think when your left side of your face droops and you can't move your shoulder. I'm guessing people go straight to that. And because I know people in the medical world and I'm quite familiar with, the concerns that come with that.
Sure.
And I still couldn't move. My phone was over there. I was laid on the floor. And I think it took me about 30 minutes to crawl my way from the walk-in robe to my shower. And I thought if I just put hot water on my joints, maybe I'll get moving. And I did, and I drove myself to the doctor's surgery, and he's like, I've never seen anything like this before. Sent me for blood tests. Yeah, I had Ross River virus and bronchitis all at the same time, and I didn't even realise.
If you were someone else, it would have been because of your attitude, your mental ability to push through the physicalities of pain and things like that. Mm-hmm. If that had been anyone else, it would have been a lot more serious.
Well, the thing is, people with Ross River virus sometimes don't get out of bed for 6 months. This had been laying dormant in my body for at least 2. But I had fighters that I had to help, people that were relying on me, people that I would never let down, or, as far as the PCR and the people it's an emotional, like I said to you, like an emotional journey earlier with one of my girls this year. It's important for me to be a part of their journey, probably stroking a bit of my own ego, I'll be honest, but also because I get to be that person for them to rely on. I didn't want to let them down. So I was back in the gym the day after being diagnosed with Ross River virus, making sure that I carried through all the way through to the end. And it kind of crippled me after that. And took a couple of weeks off. But I didn't tell Glenn, I didn't tell anybody. I just got up and got on with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I had the car accident and I was like, lacerated spleen, meh, couple of broken ribs. Boxers break their ribs every week. Whatever. I've had my jaw dislodged before. I'll be fine. I just got up and I just went back to the gym and I just kept training.
Because I was there, but I didn't know how serious it was until I saw a photo.
Yeah.
You showed me a photo.
Yeah.
And I went, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing back in the gym so soon?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like from the car, as you could see, the steering wheel was pressed up right against my chest. I had no airbag because the line was cut and I smashed my face onto it. Ugh. And I remember the doctor in emergency saying, do you know how lucky you are? And I was like, well, I don't believe in luck. So therefore... and then I kind of had nothing else to say. But obviously it wasn't my time to not be able to walk again, I guess. It wasn't my time not to be able to carry on with what I've been carrying on with. And I sure as hell was not going to miss out on a solo trip to Europe for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now.
And you needed that too.
I 100% needed that.
Do you know, it's funny when you talk about the car accident. I've had a few guests on here before and it's been these major turning points in their life. Like I've had 2 artists on who there's no doubt we're going to be visiting their work in galleries in Europe coming up. They're just about to skyrocket.
Wow.
But both of those awakenings happened with something really tragic.
Yeah.
So Steve Brown broke his neck and they drilled holes in his head to put him in a brace so he couldn't move for 6 months. Desiree, who was on 2 weeks ago, her podcast coming out next week.
Perfect.
In 9 months, she lost a house, lost a job, lost a dog, and her sister died.
Far out.
And she
needs a hug.
She didn't have any money, and all she wanted to do was go to Europe before then, but she had no money. And her sister had a bit of life insurance money. Not a lot, but she said it was enough to get her to Italy. And she just turned around and she goes, I've never done it before, but I said, fuck it, I'm going. Change the life.
Got a girlfriend
And
like that, yeah.
it's funny that, and yours is it could have been fatal, this car accident.
Yeah.
And yet it sort of changed your mind.
Oh, it did.
And the way you think,
Yeah.
like I think you were saying about yourself,
Yeah.
about what was important.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. And it's so cliche and everyone says it and your life flashes before your eyes. And obviously you play out the scenarios in your head of all the different things that could have happened, right? But I don't even think about that accident, Wayne.
Yeah.
Like at all. To me, that accident in my life that I had in the other trauma that I've experienced throughout my life was a sprinkle on the cupcake, right? So that accident for me was just a chance for me to slow down. I was doing too much. I was pushing myself too hard. I was expecting so much of myself that it was, to a point where it was unrealistic.
Kyla, where does that, do you think, come from?
Okay.
Like...
I know exactly where it comes from. Yeah.
You do?
Oh, absolutely. So let's backtrack. Probably 30 years ago.
Yeah, what was your childhood like?
Horrible. So for me, I was, and I've been thinking about a way to lightly say this without it being heavy, right? I'm not a victim. I was for a while, but I'm not anymore. I come from a land, I'll call it a land. I come from a world where alcohol, drugs and violence was a priority before food.
Okay.
I come from a world where I was born into a home that I probably shouldn't have been born into. And now with the fact that I'm in a transition in my life all over again, I realised that it's my childhood trauma, because there was a lot of it, that led me to making the choices that I made. So for me, growing up the way I did was traumatic. That's the only word I can use, traumatic, to the point where it stole a very, very, very big chunk of my life. Right up until probably 4 months ago is when I had a bit of a self-realisation within myself.
What made that happen?
Oh, that one's hard too. Well, it was a way that I was behaving without realising that I was behaving. So when you spend your whole life on fight mode, how do you know how to deal with anything else that comes your way apart from to fight, right? Emotionally, mentally, physically, everything else that comes with that. So for me, I didn't realise, but I was that unapproachable person. I was a person that couldn't take constructive criticism. I was a person that has obsessed so much about food that it's controlled my whole entire life because I had no control when I was younger. I had no identity. I created an identity through boxing. I created it. I needed somewhere to belong. So for me, I got to a point where the people that I love the most around me said, "You're actually not a nice person." And I'm like, I am one of the strongest women I know. Actually, I'm the strongest woman I know. And I would, hands down, be as strong as I am 1,000 times over your opinionated self. And this is how egotistical I was about myself.
Defense mode.
That's right.
You went into defense mode.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So, I spent my whole childhood fighting. I was born fighting and I'm still fighting, but now for a better reason, obviously. And when you are surrounded by and in a world of no hope, we'll call it that. I won't call them no hopers. I'll call it no hope. People have no hope for you, right? They don't think you're going to be anything than what you were born into. They don't think or imagine that you could be anything that you were born into. So quite often when people meet me and then they realise down the track that I'm pretty much an orphan, I've been on my own for a very long time and I've done nothing but work since I was 15 because I won't owe anybody anything. I've never stolen from one human being. I don't do drugs. I am clear street and narrow person. Smoked cigarettes for a while, had my party times, I'm not going to lie. But once they realise that I'm this strong woman who in their mind should be a crumbled crack addict, I guess, they can't deal with the fact that I'm here on my own accord, that I created my own life, that I made my own choices and took myself from situations that I refused to be in because I don't want to be like them. So I guess for me it was a constant fighting and constantly trying to prove myself to others, but not to myself. So who are others?
Yeah.
Like, who's others?
Yeah.
Tell me. And it was something that a friend of mine, she's my friend, she's also my client, said about another girl that was recently on her podcast, said, you know, we spend our whole lives worrying about what they think. Like, who are they? Because really, I don't really care what they think. But I've spent my whole life thinking and behaving in a way to make sure I got the approval of other people, to make sure that I was in a position where people thought I was amazing.
Because you've always seeked that approval.
Correct.
Because you never got it as a kid.
Never got it. So, you know, I was told, you know, you're a mistake. You weren't wanted. So that was told to me from the beginning, from as far back as I can remember. I didn't want to have 2 children, and I sure as hell didn't want a female. Yeah. You know, and it was I realise now that I'm going through this other part of my life that's her own trauma that she hasn't dealt with, and she needs to live with that, and that's not on me anymore. So, you know, the guilt's not there for me anymore, the shame's not there. That's hers. But, you know, just to brush on it lightly, it's I come from a world of trauma that if I was telling you it, you'd think I was reading it from a book, from somebody else's memoir. You'd be like, what the hell? And quite often when I say things out loud about situations, especially right now with my mentor, I can't help but want to laugh because I think to myself, that actually happened and you're still alive. Good on you.
Yeah.
Good on you.
You need a pat on the back.
Yeah, that actually happened and you're not an addict. You're not a drug addict. You're a boxing addict.
Yeah.
But you're not them.
And
Others,
we're
they.
not. And we're not.
No.
Yeah. A lot of times you compare parental upbringing has a big part to play.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's the one thing we follow as kids.
Yes.
And we follow by example.
Absolutely.
You know? And when you don't get that,
no.
And I've got friends that have had a similar upbringing.
Yeah.
It's horrific because whether you think you're over it or not, you know, it has stained you in a way.
Yeah. And this is the thing, it's not something that we're ever taught to talk about either. Right? And nor were we born, I think, into a generation where there is an understanding of how bad or how much of an impact your words, your behaviour, your positioning, your environment has on your children and how it carries and it carries and it carries. Yeah. So for me, I was so determined to be anything but that. I was so determined to be anything better than that. And I had a woman who came along in my early teenage years and took my hand and gave me the guidance that I needed to build my morals and my strength, and I will forever be grateful to her for giving me that avenue to find my way to where I am now. And not everybody has that person that can do that for them and hold their hand in that moment then when they need somebody, which I'm grateful for, but also that didn't come without payment in a way, you know, like people will remind you just how much they've done for you, just how good they are in your life, and you constantly feel this need to constantly give back to these people.
So they also needed a need to be wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And she's an incredibly strong woman.
Yeah.
Incredibly strong woman, but also obviously now that I've learnt more about myself, a woman who hasn't dealt with her issues either, I guess. But that's not for me to decide. That's on her. But just backtracking to that part, like this woman stepped in and she, you know, she held my hand and guided me through certain parts of my life. And she said in that moment, no more. I'm not letting her be here anymore. I'm not letting her go through this anymore. No more. So I lived with her for a couple of years, and then I made my own path. So, which led me down a few different places. You know, I've always worked. I've worked 3 or 4 jobs if I had to. My first job was at 14 years old. I would go to a childcare centre and wash their sinks and bathrooms and vacuum their floors, just so I made sure I had money for food and, you know, things like that. And
where did you grow up? What area?
Do I have to say? In my younger years, Kwinana.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but I was out of there in my teen years. And so into the into the Spearwood kind of Hammy Hill, Fremantle area.
Okay.
Yeah, so luckily for me, I got out of Kwinana. Not many people can say that. That's right. And I've never been back, and I won't go back. So I went through obviously different stages of my life of being angry.
Yeah, sure.
You know, really, really angry. I drank a lot at one point. I was with a guy that I thought was the love of my life, you know, when you're younger.
As you do.
Yeah, thought he was the love of my life, and, you know, he still holds a place in my heart now, but for a different reason. You know, he taught me a lot, taught me how to love, actually, and I'll be grateful for that for the rest of my life. And we went through, it was a really bad breakup. He, you know, cheated on me and got another woman pregnant and then kept it secret and then said that I was untrustworthy. After that day, I never saw him again. There was no second chance. There was no nothing. It was over. And that's when I found boxing.
How did boxing come into your life?
Okay. This is a story that I love telling.
Because it obviously saved your life.
Yep. On many different levels. So many different levels. There was a boxing gym around the corner from where I was living in Spearwood at the time. And I was living with one of my best friends, and we're still best friends now. And she would go to this boxing gym and rave about how great it was. And I was like, whatever. I've never been an active person.
How old were you?
22.
Okay.
Never been an active person, never been a part of that world. Played state netball when I was a teenager, you know, didn't, whatever. So, and this was before the horrific breakup. I thought my life had ended. Took me a year to stop crying about that, mind you. Anyway, don't cry about it anymore.
First love, obviously.
First real love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To what I know now was love. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Not what I thought was love previously with another boyfriend, but that's another long story. She said, come along one night. And I thought, I'll go along. Mind you, I was still smoking a pack of darts a day, right? Still, I was over 100 kilos, I reckon. I was 105. 104 kilos was my heaviest is where I got. And I would go to the boxing gym with her probably, I don't know, once a week. And at the time, Facebook was so cool on the rave, and I would tag myself in there. Like, yeah, I done this, went to this boxing gym and I'm awesome. Anyway, I would go home and she'd go every day and she'd be really fit, and I'd be like, roll in, put a cigarette out on the floor and go. Never took it seriously, right? Ever. I just went there for something to do, I guess, or to make me feel like I was trying to get healthier or trying to lose weight at the time. And then after the breakup, I reckon I spent about 3 weeks on the floor crying. I had a friend that was just come and cry with me, which is what you need.
What are friends for?
I was, so many people were just like, get over it and get up and get on with it. And this one particular friend, and I think it's why we've had a couple of ups and downs, but I'll never let her go. Like, she walked in, she's like, do you want me to lay with you? I was like, do you mind?
Oh, that's sweet.
She's like, let's just lay. And she did. And she lay with me and she sat with me and we smoked 100 cigarettes a day, and she just didn't let me be on my own or in my own thoughts for a single second. And she's a good human, very good human. Right? I can't say I know a lot of good humans, but the ones I do, they deserve that. And my friend Jess went back to the boxing gym and then left again, and then she left the gym, and I was like, I had nowhere to belong, right? I didn't belong anywhere. My sense of belonging, yearning to belong, has been there from as far back as my earliest memory is 2 years old is my earliest memory. And I can remember always feeling like I never belonged anywhere, right? Ever. And there was even this Aboriginal family that lived close to me that I ended up living with 50-50. They became my family. And I remember saying to my nan, you know, you call them nan, why am I white? Everyone else is black. She said, you were born in the daytime, baby, that's all. They were born at nighttime.
What a beautiful way to put it.
Yes, right? And for a long time, I didn't realise, you know, because I blatantly remember that memory at 4 years old. Joyce was her name. She fostered 167 Aboriginal children in her time. One of the most amazing women, right? She will be forever in every part of my being. You know, just that one thing, you were born in the day, they were born at night.
Wow.
Has resonated.
I don't think I'm going to forget that.
No. And it's resonated with me for my whole life. She's like, we all bleed the same. And she was an elder. She was an original elder. You know, she grew up in the stolen generation. Her dad had to cut wheat. She made toys for the white kids on the camps. She wasn't bitter. You know, she was beautiful. Yeah. And she said to me, and she knew that I was a child who just needed somewhere to belong. And there was 14 kids in this house at one stage. And we'd have dance-offs to Michael Jackson. Yeah. And, you know, like these are the happy memories that I have. And, you know, like they would care for me while somebody else couldn't. Sure. From a very young age. Sure. They took me in and loved me, and that's the only time I can remember feeling like I belonged throughout my whole life was when I was with all these kids in this house, and I was the only white kid, right? The only white kid. Go figure. Tables turned, you know, for me. Normally it's the opposite way around. You know, I've got friends who are Aboriginal and African American, and they always felt like they didn't fit into a situation because they were the only, you know, darker skinned person or the only different race. And for me, I just thought I was born at day and they were born at night. It didn't even cross my mind until I was about 8 years old.
Perfect for a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, as a kid, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Exactly. Okay, cool. And you don't question it, and you don't think about racism, and you don't. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Now that I stop and think about it, it was blatantly there. Like they couldn't even walk into the shopping centre without people looking at them like they were going to steal something. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Yeah. Are you serious? Because they were born at night time. You look at them like that. Not really. But yeah. So that was the only time in my life that I ever felt I belonged. That I had a home. It was the only time I ever felt like I had a home. The only time I felt like I was part of a family. So yeah, that'll resonate with me for the rest of my life. And, you know, I had my friend's kid ask me once, why is that girl at school like a Chico baby lolly? I said, oh no, she's just born at night time. Okay. And it wasn't until I actually saw a birth at home at the house when I was a bit older, and it was during the day, and I was like, hang on. Yeah. Hang on. And they're like, do you still believe that? I was like, no. What? What do you mean I wasn't born in the daytime? Anyway, so so that was from my memory, being a part of that family and, you know, being in that world and having that, you know, big feel. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't sunshine and lollipops. You know, we're talking in a world of what I call the white man's poison. You come through and it fucking wipes everybody out. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't pretty, but I still remember the great times and, you know, and how I was a part of that family and how they never treated me any differently, and I was wanted and I was needed, and, you know, all the babies and, you know, over the years, you know, would come through and you just feel this sense of belonging. So for me, I was missing that. I relied on that in a partner, and I'd always choose partners who had beautiful families. Yeah. So that I could be a part of that beautiful family. And I always connected and held on to the families, and the men weren't great, but the families were amazing. And I realised that was my pattern, but not until probably just before my breakup with the guy before Europe. And so I took myself back to the boxing gym. I gave up smoking, took up boxing, and I got that sense of belonging back again. I got the sense of importance, you know, being part of a community. I guess we always look to be part of a community again. And, yeah, like I said, I walked in there at 105 kilos into Westside Boxing Gym in Spearwood, And at the time, my now coach and my boss, you could call it, was an amateur boxer before he went pro. And he was there, and he was obviously a part of that first part of my journey. And I was just lucky enough that these people opened their arms to me. And when I say these people, I don't mean everybody. It's very cliquey. The boxing world is very cliquey. It's like any kind of world, really. But in the way of Glenn Austin and Brett Spagnolo, they become mentors for me.
Yeah.
And so obviously they grew wings, and, Spags left, and he opened Synergy Martial Arts in Canning Vale, alongside Blair Smith, and they have one of the most successful fighting gyms now in Australia. Just amazing, amazing gym. And I started training out of there. And Glenn was working at another gym at the time, and he would come there and train me. And in the space of 12 months, Glenn and Brett took me from 105 kilos and made me a 69 kilo boxer.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I had my first fight at 25. So I started later. So the first couple of years I was just back and forward. And then I went through that breakup. I could have been 26 actually. And I went into this first fight. Glenn gave me somewhere to belong and gave me a family, and he gave me a home.
You couldn't ask for a nicer guy though.
Oh, don't get me wrong, he shits me to tears sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean,
where did I put my keys? Thanks. Is that your water bottle? Glenn, can you just take the sticker off your water bottle? Because we've all got the same water bottle.
Yeah. When Cameron introduced me to Glenn in Greens, because I was saying to Cam that, I was looking for another boxing gym because I used to box down at Fazio's gym in Northbridge.
Yep.
And I got introduced to boxing because of a movie. Because we were doing my wife was doing a movie.
Fists.
Yeah, my wife, that's Jocelyn's and David Elphick's film.
Yeah.
And so they were doing that film. And, Ray kept coming to Sydney and saying, look, there's a story about my dad that I really want to tell. Because the story you saw is not the story that Ray sort of wanted to make.
Right.
I mean, the real story was about his father growing up in Sicily, becoming an Olympic boxer.
Wow.
Doing a heist 2 weeks before the Olympics.
Wow.
And then getting arrested and not being able to compete in the Olympics. So when he had kids, like any boxing movie, you push it on your kids.
Yeah.
And Ray was the youngest that showed talent.
Yeah.
So from the age of 4, you've got old Super 8 footage of him punching a bag. And it was a great story. It wasn't about Ray. It was about the father.
Yeah.
And that really wasn't the last script. It got changed and stuff. But anyway, we got introduced and he said, why don't you guys come down to box? Now, I always loved boxing. I'm at the age where I still remember a Ali Fraser fight.
So 21 then, because 5 years ago
I remember
maybe.
it on YouTube. And
this one time on YouTube.
But that's how I was introduced. And when they closed down, they didn't close it, ownership change. After a while, we couldn't find parking. Like each time we'd go there for afternoon session, there was no parking in Northbridge. And if there was parking, you had to pay. So we ended up leaving, because by the time we got home from work, we were always trying to find parking. We were always 10 minutes late or whatever. And then when I need to find someone, Cameron said, mate, I'm going to a gym around the corner. I didn't even know where it was. He said it's Glenn Austin's gym.
Yeah.
And one day Glenn and Cam were in Greens and he introduced me and I said, hi Glenn, I'm Wayne. And I said, oh look, my wife and I really want to, we will come down and have a look. And I knew Glenn's face was like, yeah, you'll never do it. But please come down. We did.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did. And we knew Erin that was there.
Yep.
But I didn't know her that well. But she performed in the movie in one of the fights. And it was like what I loved about Glenn's gym is it was like a family.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So whenever I said to other friends who were going to gyms and not just boxing gyms, I said, it's just like walking in, you can say hi to everyone. It's like they're like friends. And it's weird, like when I go back or even when I came back after traveling, there's all these new people and I'm the new face again.
Yes.
So they're looking at me as I'm the new face.
Yes.
It's like when I come back in April,
Yeah.
But that's what I love about it. I love the fact that Glenn sort of, I don't know, it's a family.
Yeah.
A lot of them there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a family.
And it's like, I was at Synergy and it was very much the same vibe.
Yeah.
But for me, at the time, preparing for the fights that I was preparing for, there were no other female boxers, right? There was no other female boxers at the time to spar with. There were Muay Thai fighters, don't get me wrong. And I've sparred with some of the best Muay Thai fighters in the world, like Toby Smith and, Roy Wills, like they're amazing. So for me, have been exposed to so much in that area. But I also was again surrounded by men. Like 100 men at a time. And I just felt that something just wasn't clicking for me, as a female. It just wasn't clicking for me. I loved the gym, loved the vibe.
It's a Synergy.
Synergy in Canning Vale. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's absolutely amazing. And if anyone ever says to me that they want to be a part of a Muay Thai gym or they want to fight amateur, I say, please do yourself the best favour and go to this gym. You will not.
Sure.
You will never, ever, ever doubt yourself ever just going to this gym. But I wanted to be with Glenn. He was my difference, he made a massive difference in my life.
You connected.
Yeah, massively.
In a special way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now that I'm a coach, you realise how those connections are made, right? Yeah. So, I went to Glenn and I spoke to Spags. I'm like, Spags, he's like, Kyla, it makes sense, of course. Like, I would never be offended that you want to be, at Anarchy full time, in which I was. And I'd go back and forth from Synergy and I'd spar there and go for a class and I love it. They've got some of the best amateur boxers and, professional Muay Thai fighters to ever come out of WA, in my opinion. And I remember walking in there that day and Glenn hugging me and I was like, this is where I feel like I belong, with you, here with you in this gym. It's the only place I feel that I can completely be at home. And I've not felt that, and I still haven't felt that anywhere else. Ever.
Really?
Yeah. So, going back to the accident, that's why I got up. That's why I went there. Was it smart? No, don't do it. But it's the only place that gave me that feeling that I needed. I didn't have somebody to pat my hair and tell me I was going to feel better. We all crave that when we're going through these times in our life. I didn't have somebody to hold my hand and just say, it's going to be okay. That gym holds my hand. That place holds my hand.
So is there a possibility that you can feel that way without a gym?
Wow.
Because the old saying, if you put your happiness in someone else's hands, when they leave, so does your happiness.
Yeah. So
is that what you're going through now?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So obviously, going through boxing and having the discipline and somewhere to belong, I craved discipline. If you're brought up with discipline, you don't crave discipline. But when people don't know where you are for 2 days, no one gives a shit. Yeah. You're like, I really want someone just to care about what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
And that's my inner child speaking. I just want someone to say, you're doing a good job. And there was times where I doubt myself over and over, and I'll never forget this. I'll never, ever forget. Two things I'll never forget. My first ever boxing fight, my first ever amateur fight, right? I rock up we're in the back room warming up. Glenn and Spags are there. And another trainer from another gym comes over and goes, oh, your girl's fighting such and such. And Glenn's like, yeah, mate, yeah, she is. Oh, she's strong. Glenn's like, Kyla's stronger. Well, she's fast. Glenn's like, Kyla's faster. Well, she's good. Kyla's better. Is there anything else, mate? So just having someone there just to say those words in my defence. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to defend myself. Yeah. Somebody else was there standing beside me saying, I got you. We got this. And for me, that changed my life completely. And I'd be so nervous. And Glenn would always say to me, this is living.
Yeah.
This is living. Is there anywhere else in the world right now you'd rather be? I'm like, no, this is living. And they're the two things that I'll never, ever forget. It's the fact that the first time in my life someone stood next to me and said, hold on, she's just as good. If not, she can be better. And do you know what? I lost that fight, right? Yeah. It was my first ever fight. I lost it on a split decision against someone who had multiple fights.
Sure.
I didn't lose that fight. that when I hopped in the ring, I'd lost 30 kilos. I'd regained my confidence. I'd found myself a home, and I had somebody in my corner.
That's what it represented.
Massively.
It wasn't about the fight.
It's
was getting to
never
that.
been about the fight.
Yeah.
It's never been about the fight, and I realise that now. It has never, ever, ever been about
So
the
you're
fight.
saying your opponents have been yourself, basically, in the ring?
Yeah, yeah. When I get into that ring, in my mind, I've already won. I don't go in there going, what if I lose? I've already won just getting in there.
Do you know what? It's hard to say, but you've probably had the stereotypical boxer upbringing.
It's funny you say that too, because
when you listen, Mike Tyson
mate.
and, all these people have come from these, look at Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I mean, he found a father figure.
Yes. And it's the
that
stigma
backed him
you
up.
carry, right? And this is, I'm glad you brought this up because this is very important to me. People automatically think, and it was one of my girls that said something, boxers never come from a fairy tale. They never come from that world, ever. Me, 5 months ago, would have got extremely offended, because I am a strong woman. I've worked for multi-million-dollar companies. I've, had shares in businesses. I've done all these things. I am a successful woman and I've done it on my own. And how dare you assume that we just come from a lot? No, you're right. Right? So I don't go on that tangent anymore. You're right, sweetie. You're right. We've all got a bit of CUNT in us. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But that's the stigma that you carry.
Right.
And for me, it's important for people, well, not for people. It's important that I know that that's not what it is. People have this mentality that boxers are just thugs, right? They're just thugs looking to make a quick buck. They're just thugs out there trying to feel good about themselves and stroke their egos. Don't get me wrong. We absolutely have egos, right? But I'm happy to stroke yours.
Yeah.
And his and his. It's not the case. It is not the case. The people in those boxing gyms are people that I can now rely on for the rest of my life, and I know that. They're people that come to the hospital to make sure that I was okay. They're people that include me in their family gatherings, and, they're very, very important to me. And I recently had somebody say to somebody that I know that they wanted their child to be in boxing for discipline and things like that because he struggles at school. But then the backup comment was, but can you take him because I don't like to be around those kinds of people?
Oh.
Sweetie, what kinds of people? What kinds of people? The kinds of people that gave me a home?
But they're probably people that have never stepped foot in a gym
or they have, and they've been to a gym where they've been treated badly or poorly, and they've created this image in their head of what they are, and that's their own experience. So I did get offended back then. I'm no longer offended. They're her feelings.
That's right.
Yeah.
It reflects more on her than it does.
But you get faced with that stigma, and even coming here today, I thought to myself, I know way better boxers than me. I know women that are way more inspirational than what I am. Not today, sorry, a couple of days ago until I spoke to my mentor, all these things. And I think, well, why not me?
Yeah.
Why not me? And that's the thing. It's like we always, for me, I always go back to, because I've learned from so many wonderful people, Glenn, Erin, I admire her boxing ability. I think it's amazing. I surround myself with women that are so strong in the ring, like Sarah Dwyer, for example. She's one of my very best friends now. I've helped her train through all her fight camps, and she went and fought for a world title fight, and still they said, can you do a video in lingerie? Why? She's going for a world title fight. You want to do a video in lingerie? What?
Oh, my God.
What's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
So this is the thing, right? But there's a massive stigma behind boxing and boxing gyms and the boxing world that we're all just a bunch of thugs out there looking to build our egos and earn some dollars doing it.
I think it was more a while ago. I think now, because boxing training has come into the limelight now with so many people with fitness, I think people have people that have never stepped in the gym or whatever, but I think it's I still don't think you can beat training in boxing for fitness.
Oh, it's an all-over cardio session.
You've conquered the physical,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
I can
yeah.
honestly, like, going through accidents and you've trained your body. And
Yeah.
So now it's all a mental game for you, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're going through hypnotherapy at the moment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I am. So I've thought about the words to use for this one too.
Don't think, Kyla.
True.
Just spit the truth.
So it's funny how this came about. I went on holiday to Scotland with David in November. It was the most amazing holiday.
Photos look great.
Oh, it was the best. I just loved it. Different kind of holiday for me. Last time I went to Europe, I don't remember much of it, I'll be honest, and that's because I was having a very good time.
Yeah.
But this was different. I went to meet David's family. I was going to meet his gran, and unfortunately she passed the week before I got there, which I know was upsetting for him. She was one of the most favourite people for him in the whole world. So he had to fly over earlier. Anyway, that's beside the point. So where it led me to this part is he told me that one of the most favourite things he had about our holiday was that I didn't count calories. So we're sitting there in the Highlands of Scotland at the fairy pools with water that's dripping from glaciers into blue ponds. They look so
beautiful.
Blue. And he was grateful that I wasn't counting calories. It made me stop and just reflect on how much pressure I put on myself to be in control of so much of my emotions that I actually had no control at all. At all. And I thought, holy shit, I want a family, right? I want children. I can't wait to be a mother. But I don't want them to know me as a person who counted calories their whole life. I don't want to be reacting. Another thing, I got a text message from Glenn, and it was about something that he should be able to approach me about, being that it's his business and, you know, there was something that he felt uncomfortable with that I was doing or whatnot. And he actually had to text me because he said to me, I know I can't approach you with this because I know how defensive you get.
Right.
I never wanted to be the unapproachable person, ever. And then I realised with friendships around me and different things that I had become that unapproachable person, that people walked on eggshells around me because they knew I'd get offended, because they knew I'd be defensive.
Did that call come before the Scotland, or that was recent?
After.
Okay. So it was these steps that led to you suddenly having this self-realisation that I don't want people to think of me this way because I'm not.
No. And not only that, I don't want to be that way. I was angry. Those people took enough of my life. You know, that trauma, that hurt, that pain.
Oh, from your past.
Yeah. It's taken enough of my life.
Yeah.
So what I realised is that I used boxing not only for somewhere to belong, but somewhere and something to deal with anger and my emotions. I spent years on fight mode, putting myself into fights, not actually dealing with the emotional issue at hand, not actually dealing and going back and dealing with the trauma.
Which is the most important part.
Well, I never thought that way.
Yeah.
I thought boxing is therapy. I don't need to talk to anybody about my problems. And when I did go to a psychologist, and I'll be so open about this because having a mentor and going through the therapy that I've been through the last 4 months has changed me so significantly that I have not felt this human in 15 years.
Really?
So I will talk about it until I'm blue in the face.
And you should, because there'll be girls listening to this and guys listening to this.
Exactly. So
thinking
there was a massive turning point for me, and I was, funnily enough, in a coffee shop, El Grotto, in Stirling. I was working in an office job at the time. And I was talking to a client at the time about the colouring she had for her logos, and I saw this business card sitting there. It's beautiful colouring, this butterfly on it. And I picked it up and I thought, oh, that's a really good colour scheme. Took it back. I said, I really like this colour scheme on this card. Googled it. It's Holly. And she's does transformational therapy. Had a bit of a giggle to myself. Hypnotherapy. Put it in my bag. Never thought about it again. Right? And I only just put the pieces together on where I found this card. And I have a friend / client who has a podcast, and she interviewed a young woman named Iris. And Iris is a successful businesswoman. I believe she's in her mid-20s. And we were talking about this because I see this friend at least 3 times a week.
Okay.
And we were talking about this particular woman that she was going to be interviewing for her podcast before the podcast happened. And then obviously I listened to the podcast and I was like, whoa. So Iris was on the podcast and spoke about how her life changed dramatically from childhood trauma and all the things that she held on to and all the things she didn't deal with throughout her life. Iris was talking about how she'd gone, met Holly and whatnot, who is now my mentor. So this was before the podcast had been aired. We were having a little chat about it, and she said, that someone she knew was just amazing. She can't wait for me to hear this podcast because she thinks it's going to resonate with me. And I was excited. She obviously didn't let off too much what was in the podcast because, it's her podcast and it hasn't been released yet. And but we were talking about the fact that, Holly was the transformational therapist. Or I would like to call her a mentor. And I got home and I said, do you know what, I'm really interested about this, before the podcast airs, and could you just ask, Iris for the details for me? And I got home and I was cleaning through my bag and this card fell on the floor and I took a photo of it and I sent it to this friend and I said, how bizarre, we were talking about this kind of stuff this morning. She goes, it's the same person. So that day I booked an appointment to meet Holly. And ever since meeting Holly, my life has changed dramatically.
How long have you been seeing Holly?
To be honest with you, Wayne, 3 months.
Not long.
Nope. And
she's obviously good.
Well, I think that she's a phenomenal woman. I want to say that. It's all about how we perceive, like I said to you, about worrying about what other people think. Like, who are other people? And to be honest with you, no one really gives a shit.
No one does.
Like, they actually don't.
I thought I came to that conclusion because I got older. But really, I think as you get older, you stop caring anyway.
Absolutely.
What people think about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I often think that if I had to care about what people think about what I was doing, all the things in my life that I'm proud of now, I wouldn't have done.
No.
Because they would have told me not to.
Yes.
So you look back and you think.
And a lot of my limitations come from myself.
Yeah.
Worrying. I used to worry so much about what other people would think about me. Yeah. I'd lose sleep about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know people that get in abusive relationships, I'm not saying you were in them, but I heard this on the radio and these ladies were ringing in to this psych saying how come they're always getting into these same relationships, these destructive relationships. Mm-hmm. And this lady turned around, I was driving when I heard it, this lady turned around and said, you often attract the people you think you deserve. Mm-hmm. And I had to take that in. I was driving going, ooh, what are these ladies going to say? And this lady started crying. Yeah. And she went, it hit her. Because suddenly, all this anger that was going outwards all the time, suddenly it was faced to her. Yep. And she took a little bit of responsibility for attracting those people.
Correct.
And it was a big moment. I never forget that, listening to that in the car. It was just this talkback radio. Yeah. And I often think that now, Yes. Do you believe that to an extent?
I massively believe that. Really? I also, I believe that everything, I now have an understanding that a lot of the things that I face are self-thought. I create these moments in my mind that were never there, that will probably never be there because I never thought I was good enough. And that has come from the conditioning from a child. It's been trained into my brain. By the time I was 7 years old, I thought I was nothing and I didn't belong on this earth. And for a lot of us, a lot of this stuff that we deal with comes from that. Everybody has their own trauma. How minuscule you might think that, say your next door neighbours is compared to mine, it is still trauma.
Yeah.
It is still trauma.
It is.
And it's things that I did not deal with. I didn't. I remember going to a psychologist when I was losing my shit at one point and said, I don't need to talk about it. I need you to give me the tools I need to get past it. And she's like, I said, I'm paying $180 an hour. I don't want to talk about my issues. I need tools to learn how to shut it off in my mind. And she gave me the tools because that's what I asked for.
Wow.
And I never actually dealt with the trauma. I just shoved it.
You feeling a lot lighter after 3 months?
I feel like I can breathe. For the first time in my life, I feel like I can breathe. Like I can actually feel lungs. My lungs are full. It's hard to explain, and I've received quite a bit of backlash from people that I've shared this information with because it's an alternative therapy. We're programmed to believe that, white jackets and tablets
and drugs.
Yep, exactly. And that's their opinion, and I am going through a phase a stage now where I'm learning not to judge people based on their opinion.
It's how they were brought up, or it's how they were trained and educated.
It's how they've been conditioned to believe about themselves.
Yeah.
And my life, and I can honestly tell you that every day of my life, I have woken up like this in the past, looked around, checked where I am. Okay, I'm safe, I'm good. Every day. I can't name a day that I did not wake up like that for 30 years that I can remember. I don't wake up like that anymore. I don't.
Fantastic.
I don't. I wake up and meditate. I meditate.
Well, meditate's great.
Come on, Wayne, this is me. I
would be like,
you fucking hippies.
But look at you now.
I cannot scream this loud enough. I cannot scream it loud enough.
Because it's affected you so much.
And I said to Holly the other day, I said, I am so grateful for you for no judgment. She's got no judgment. I walk into that room and I can tell her absolutely anything that I'm thinking, and I wait for the shift in emotion of her face to be like, ugh, or, oh my God, you're a weirdo. No shift of emotion. Nothing. She accepts me exactly as I am. And I have somebody helping me heal. And I've never, ever, ever asked for help. I've never asked for help. And she's helping me heal. And you know what? It's okay to ask.
Yeah, of course it is.
For help. It's okay to find that avenue that works for you.
That's a big change in you now.
That's a massive
just for you
change.
To say that now.
Yeah. Wayne, there was no way I would sit here and talk to you about my childhood trauma a year ago. There's no way I would admit that the world that I came from, I was ashamed. Yeah. I held so much shame on myself because I could be better. I could be better. Yeah. And I was so jealous of people that had loving parents, and I was so jealous of people that got to have Christmas lunch. I was so jealous of, and that jealousy created so much hatred within me that I actually was so severely sarcastic that I was nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty to people that I loved. Disgusting, right?
It's disgusting, but
that's also a judgment on myself.
Yeah, and I think it's more of a judgment. I don't think people judge you as hard as you judge yourself.
Correct.
Half the time people don't even know.
No, and even I said to Holly that I was on my way here today. So she is on call for me for her clients 24/7. Wow. And I said to her, just checking in, I've got an appointment next week. And I said, I'm on my way to the podcast, and I'm not going to lie. I'm like, was feeling apprehensive about it the last couple of days. And she's like, why? You're amazing. You are so inspirational. You don't realise how inspirational you are.
But only you don't realise.
Correct.
Well, why do you think I called you on?
Yeah, exactly.
What was my first words in this podcast?
One of the most inspirational. Yeah. And even in that moment, I'm like, surely he's not talking about me. And this is the thing. This is where my brain takes me. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And I laugh about it, But I'm that much of an empath that even after we go through some body work, because some body work, some of the stuff that I talk about is heavy. It's heavy. It's things that I've suppressed for a long time. And it's stuff that if you were to talk to me about it, I'd cry for you, right? So I think to myself, and I still look at Holly and go, are you okay? Because that was really heavy to listen to. She goes, see what kind of person you are. You are in this moment where you are being so vulnerable and open, and we're healing your trauma, and you're still making sure that I'm okay to hear it. You're still making sure that I'm okay to hear what you have been through. And that's when I realized that I'm not those people.
Yeah.
I am me in the world of us.
Yeah.
There's an us for me. I don't have a they anymore. I don't have other people anymore. I don't feel the need to get involved in gossip. I don't feel the need to feed gossip or anything like that anymore.
Have you had to say la vie to friends of yours?
Correct, yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, you start to realise who is quite toxic in your life when you go through this change.
Yeah. And there's, and I was even concerned because, David's FIFO. When I first started the therapy with Holly, well, not therapy, like my thought pattern changing. It's so much, your mind is it's crazy. Anyway, I thought, oh my God, what if he comes back from work and he doesn't match my vibe?
What if he doesn't match my vibe?
What if he's so closed off to the idea of this that I can't have him in my life? Oh my God. I just couldn't. I manifested that in my head.
Oh.
So when he came back, as soon as he said anything about it, I was like, of course you're going to be like that because it's alternative therapy and you don't believe in it. And blah, 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 blah. He's like, no,
Whoa.
I don't believe in it. But it's helping you and that's all I care about.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's all I care about. I want you to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
I want you to wake up in the morning and know and feel how we feel about you. I want you to know that you are important.
Well, that's the boyfriend you need.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't choose him based on his family, by the way. I fell in love with him before I met him. And I fell in love with him before I held pads for him, luckily, because...
Oh, was he training too, was he?
No. I bought him some gloves. I thought we could get... He can't box
Have
for
some
shit,
couple
Wayne.
time.
He just can't box for shit. And, for me... I love so much about that man.
Yeah.
He's got 2 bad bricks, I won't lie, and we all do.
Yeah.
But yeah, he can't box for shit. And I'm glad I fell in love with him before that because judgmental me at that time would have gone, oh my God, how can me, a boxing coach, be with someone who can't hold pads? Like I just...
sometimes that will help in your favour.
Yes.
Having somebody that comes from a different world.
Yeah.
It really relates, as long as you two have your own little things.
Oh, we'll work out together and he likes that I'm a PT and I'll make up little programs and we'll have backyard workouts. And,
nice.
He plays water polo and has done ever since he was...
okay.
Yeah, so he's a fit person.
Yeah.
He just wasn't my idea of I was like...
I need to go 3 rounds, but whatever boyfriend I'm going out with.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, is water polo similar to synchronized swimming? I'm going to call so much shit for that. If is water polo similar to synchronized swimming, he's like, are you okay?
Water polo can get grueling.
No, water polo. Lie. I couldn't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
I'd be puffed out after 50 meters.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of fitness.
I know.
But anyway, back to this new, this different way of living for me. I now realize, even in my relationship, I'd be like, how, surely he won't stay. He's such an amazing man. And now I realize that I have the love that I deserve.
Of course.
I have the love that I deserve.
There you go.
I deserve to be loved like that because you know why? I love like that too. And I deserve to have that something special in my life.
Do you know when you think that way, you attract those people.
Right.
You do.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it's, Holly has helped guide me in so many ways. And sometimes I'll get so upset about something and I'll say to her, oh, why am I so angry about this? Or why do I think that way? And she'll be like, sweetie, of course you do. Of course, it's okay. Like you're okay. Like it's what you've been through trauma. You're healing. Of course you're going to feel like that. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for that.
Well, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, and it's like, I know I've got a long road ahead.
But you're a young woman, Kyla.
Yes, I am.
So
I cried for 3 days when I turned 30 about getting old, but I'm still young.
But it's lucky, people are going through this in their 60s, in their 70s.
Yes.
They're going through the same thing. They're getting counselled. They're
know.
learning how to meditate. I believe in meditation.
Oh, I do now.
Well, I was introduced to it like you when I was 21.
Really?
And I thought it was crap. I was crying one day. I won't go through the whole thing. And this guy saw me crying in a bin. I was trying to stamp rubbish down in a bin.
You were stamping rubbish in a bin crying?
In a suit, in an office job, in a car park. And he turned around one day quickly and he came in and he said, if you were my son, I don't have a son, I want you to go to do this 2-day course. And I said, what is it? And he goes, you're going to learn how to meditate, but you're going to learn so much more. And I was like, come on, dude, I'm not into that. He goes, how about this? It's $600, which in 1992
Far out.
or 3, it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
He said, I'll pay for it. If you don't like it, don't pay me back. If you get more than what you want, pay me back whenever you want.
What?
Yeah. And changed my life. Changed my life.
Wow.
Same like you, but you found it now. You're
Yeah.
30. You're 30 years old.
31.
31.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Yeah, I know.
You got your whole life ahead of you.
I know, and I am a great 31. Do you know what
You
I
are.
mean? Like
You
I'm
are.
not. I'm not a. I don't. Like I said, I cried for 3 days when I turned 30 because I thought my life was over. I was like, great, everyone else has husbands and babies, and I'm just on my own. Got over that. 6 months till we get over that, but I got over it. But yeah, so for me now, taking this step in my life before I start my next chapter is extremely important for me. Making sure that I am in a place in my life where I no longer feel shame, guilt, unworthiness within myself.
That's right.
Myself. And I think once I stopped and I went to Holly and I had somebody tell me and almost allow me to feel, right? Allow me to feel, not just be told, toughen up and get on with it. Get up and get on with it. And that was me. That's how I spent my whole life.
Sure.
Get up and get on with it. Glenn felt like he couldn't approach me and I'm working in his business, in his gym. And he felt like he couldn't approach me because I'm so defensive and so judgmental. And I accepted that was part of me at that stage now. I was angry at myself for being like that, but I accept that was a part of me. I'm not going to deny it. And I think about it and I think, wow, I wouldn't want to be friends with someone like I was then. And although I'm an inspirational woman, I know I am, although I've built this life for myself and other people from the outside, they look in and they just think, oh, you're just so amazing. And they didn't deal with what I dealt with in my mind. They didn't see how I was really reacting to situations because I'd be angry. I'd come into the gym or upset or sad or I'd had a nightmare or a night terror. Glenn can instantly tell, are you okay? No. You want to spar? Yeah. We'd put our headgear on and we'd just bash each other for a little while. He's like, you feel better? I'm like, yep. And then I'd take the headgear off. And he knew exactly what to do in the moments that I needed him to in that,
Well, I'm glad because you would have taken it out on us then. Wayne, get down, give me 50, run around the block.
Don't worry, I still do that. Even one of the boys, I'm like, no, I'm not angry anymore. And he's like, can you just swear at me or something? This is weird, Kyla. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm not that person anymore, Before I leave the house every minute, I meditate. Might only be for 10 minutes.
Well done.
Every day before I leave the house, it might only be 10 minutes, I meditate. And I don't leave the house without sitting and taking a breath first because I don't want to be that person to those people.
Sure.
It's
well
not
done.
fair. It's
well
not
done.
fair. And I sure as hell don't want to be that person to myself.
But, I don't think we ever looked at you we looked at you as a tough person because of what you've gone through.
Yes.
But to me, you were never unapproachable.
No, not to you, I wasn't. But to the people that were closest to me, I was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll hand on my heart say that.
Okay.
That I was extremely defensive. I've become very emotionally attached to my friends. So if they were angry about something, I'd be angry at it and then they'd get over it and I'd still be angry and I'd be like, why can't you be angry? You should still be angry. And then they felt like they had to take on board what I was saying. Do you know what I mean? I was so forceful. Yeah, with my opinion, but I always thought it would come from a place of love. I always thought it came from a place of love. I didn't realise it came from a place of judgment.
Judgment and protection.
Yeah, for myself.
For yourself.
And for the people that I love. Like my best friend, Sarah, I would leave the earth for that girl. If anything ever happened, you know, her husband's in the Navy, if anything ever happened, I would pack up my life and I'd move in with her and help her raise her children. I wouldn't hesitate for a single second to be by her side through every moment of her life. But it got to a point where she was coming to me about things that she needed some support with, and I was taking it on board and then treating the people poorly that she was having these issues with.
Oh, okay.
Who am I to do that?
Yeah.
What?
Well, the fact that you can reflect on it now means the growth that you've gone on.
And one of them was her husband, you know, and I was...
This poor Navy dude out there.
Please
his wife bitching about.
And, look, and some of the feelings were warranted, but I instantly felt this urge of protection because I've got this issue with injustice.
Sure.
I've got a massive issue with injustice. And a lot of that comes from growing up in an Aboriginal foster home, 50% of my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes up from having to constantly battle to get somewhere in my life, and also being a female in a very male-dominated industry, very male-dominated. I've always had to have this persona about me, like, you know, like I'm a man too.
I need to be my own, prove myself here.
Yeah. So for me, I've spent so long being like that I didn't actually know how to be my real true self. So now that I've taken...
It's not an easy journey. I'm talking for anyone.
No.
You know how many people out there don't really know?
No.
Because they've never really been introspective to look within.
Well, that's right.
You know?
And this recent fight, so the state title fight I was meant to have, right, against
I was going to ask you, are you still fighting?
Nope. And I'm happy with that.
Okay.
I'm happy to give back to the sport that gave to me instead. Yeah. I'm happy to be there to guide and love. I'll be that 80-year-old woman at the ticket booth selling tickets for my grandson's first amateur fight.
You're going to be like the female version of Mickey and Rocky.
Yes, yeah, that'll be me.
Speed.
I hate those movies, but yes, that'll be me. And that's the thing. I don't feel I need to fill a void with that anymore. I don't need that identity to be who I am anymore. That identity also gave me the career that I'm on now, and now I get to make a difference in other people's lives, just how Glenn has made a difference in mine.
Well done.
And I am so proud of myself for that. It's an industry that I think is forever growing, and women are so powerful within themselves now. You know, 1%, I was saying to my partner last night, only 1% of athletes are women. Do you understand that? 1% of professional recognised athletes are women. 1%. I was part of that 1%, and I'm fucking proud of that.
Yeah, well done.
Right? My friends are part of that 1%, and I'm fucking proud of them too. And I always will be, right? But, yeah, now when that was taken away from me, from the hormone battle last year, like I said to you, big part of that was the car accident as well and the impact it had across my stomach. I had a burst cyst on my ovaries this time last year, and I still was going to fight. And my doctor said to me, you know, you're at a level 2, you're premenopausal, so all these weight cuts, all these years of dieting, all this living on the scale, the female body cannot be trained like a male's. It cannot. I don't care what anybody says. I am a female that trained like a male and fucked myself up in that process.
That's a big argument now.
It's a massive argument.
It's a big argument now.
Yeah, and I feel very strongly about.
I do believe because I've seen some fights, some especially MMA fights, with transgender.
Yeah,
and it's just different.
It's very different, and look, and
this is coming from. But you see, people that say that aren't athletes.
No, they got no idea.
They have no idea. They're just this. They're listening to what Twitter's saying, and they're a bit of this woke culture.
Exactly.
But not many of them are athletes that actually are in that octagon or that boxing ring.
No, and that's the thing. And it's like, I spent...
Even though you could bash the shit out of probably 70% of the guys I know, 90% of the guys I know.
Do you know what? Maybe we should have a bit of our own white collar rumble and raise some money for something one day, just to prove a point. No, I ruined my body for what I thought at the time. And I'll never take boxing away from myself. Like I said, I love boxing. I lived it, I breathed it, I ate it, I slept it. Anything new. If I could snort it and put it into my veins through intravenous use, any other way I could, I would have done that for boxing.
You evolve with your growth.
That's
boxing
right.
will evolve with your growth.
Correct. But I also trained my body into a state. Some women can do it. You know, like some women can train from very young I admire, the amateur girls that train all year and get one fight a year, like I did. Train, wait for a matchup, wait for a matchup, train, in fight camp, always on a diet, always sticking to a weight, always counting calories, always training, person drops out, person goes to a different weight, no matchup in your weight division. Oh, you got one fight this year. I trained for 12 months for one fight. Can't I just fight the men? That's what I say. Can't I just fight the boys? I would happily fight them, even to go for a lot. No, because it is different. I don't care what anybody says. It is different. The female body cannot take on the impact, the training regime, the extremes that a male body can. Can they do what men can do? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just not at that constant push level. There was so much testosterone in my body that the estrogen levels weren't being read. No drugs, no nothing. I trained myself into a point where I could probably, if I kept going for another year, would struggle to have a family at all.
Is that your next journey?
Absolutely. So that was taken away from me. Boxing was taken away from me without my choice.
Sure.
Right? And this, kudos to the girl that I was going to fight. If I knew that I could walk in there and walk through her and just beat her straight away, physically, I would have still fought. But I know that it was going to be a tough fight and I wanted to be 100% there.
Yeah.
So rather than going there half-assed, I wanted to be 100%, and I sat on it for 48 hours, and I thought, do you know what? The chance of not having a family is not worth it for any fight with anybody ever, for me.
No.
Ever.
No.
So I've spent a whole year fixing my hormones.
Oh, good on you.
I've only just got to a point now where it's okay, where I'm healthy in the female area.
Sure.
And people don't talk about that. They don't talk about women losing their period or losing that ability. And I've got a friend somebody that I met through the gym, through association, that spent years in a different sport as a professional athlete that also ruined her hormones. No weight cuts, right? No punching.
Wow. Interesting.
Team sport. Took her a year to fix it, to be able to fall pregnant. Took her almost 2 years to fall pregnant. Another friend goes through bodybuilding, does all the restrictive diets, loses her period.
Yeah.
Took her 2 years to fall pregnant.
Do you know what I think you should do, which would be really good, is imagine if you could combine your training, like training people, with Holly to the people that need it the most.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing thing.
It would.
Psychologically, hypnotherapy, boxing training.
But the thing is, people have to be at a stage in their life where they're ready for Holly.
Right, okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
So for me, 18 months ago, I would have laughed in your face.
That's why the card came up.
Yeah. 18 months ago, I would have laughed in your face and gone, alternative therapy, you people are fucking crazy. And I would have, literally, that would have been my instant judgment on you. When you told me you meditate every day, I would have gone, oh, that's nice, Wayne, fucking hippie. Like I just instantly would have judged you.
Yeah.
So unless a person is in a mindset where they are truly ready to be in that next stage of their life, there's no point.
Unless you camouflage it. Like, a lot of the boxers were hypnotised before a fight.
Yeah, really? No, I didn't know that.
Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson's my favourite boxer in the whole world. Why didn't I know that?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel even better now.
Casamata?
Yeah.
Casamata would in the room before the fight. Because he was an actual hypnotherapist.
Right.
And he would hypnotise Mike Tyson about the ring, about the psychological effects of the ring.
Well, Holly does a lot of work. She does a lot of transformational therapy, business. It's not just trauma.
Yeah.
You know, she's got a wide range of
she obviously does a job well.
Do you know what? She backs herself. She confidently backs herself. I walk in there, she tells you what she can and can't do, things that she's prepared to do and what she's worth. And she doesn't budge. And she backs herself.
Well done.
You back yourself, I back you. Yep.
So Holly obviously knows what she's doing, and I hope that you continue your journey with her.
Oh, 100%.
And also learn the techniques yourself that, if somebody ever comes to you, you can be, I know it won't be in the same thing, but when somebody comes to you for training, that could also be a young 20-year-old Kyla.
It's funny you say that because Holly said to me, once you start healing, everyone around you starts to heal.
True.
And I've got a friend who's now meditating every day. She's got PTSD, paramedic, right? She's amazing. And anyway, she's meditating. She meditates every day. She's like, you're right. Meditation, because I said to her, this is what I'm doing. It's as simple as this. And I've got clients that don't back themselves and don't believe in themselves. One of my clients, Leah, has lost 30 kilos in the last year, and she's a different woman. She is so confidently beautiful, and I just love watching her grow as this strong, confidently, like she's still got a long way to go as far as she's concerned. I think she's already kicked so many goals. And she said to me, you have better intentions for me just being in my life this last year than people that have been in my life forever. You care more about my well-being and me as a person than people that I've known for a very, very long time, and you are so special to me. And it's not until now that I can learn to take those compliments and say, I'm so glad I'm that person for you in your life. Like, I really am. So for me, what's next is I've just started studying prenatal, during and postnatal training for women.
Okay.
Physical. So broadening my skills so that I can train women during and after pregnancy, and make sure that the women that want to or seek that can have safe guidance and go back safely into a world that they were once a part of before they had children. Or,
well done.
To me, it's important because you can't just say to a woman, go and do box jumps, who's just had a baby 6 weeks ago. And everybody's different. The hormones are different, and the life is different. And my best friend, Annie, is a nutritionist, and she's working on all the nutritional side of things, like for athletes and things like that. So I bounce off her and she bounces off me. And, for us, it's we've got like this unity going on, and she's, doing a degree right now in nutrition. She's the one that fixed my hormones this year with nutrition in the last year.
Nutrition plays such a big part.
Oh, my God.
People don't realise it.
I could sing her praises from the hilltops, and not just because I love her, because she's a phenomenal human being and an amazing mother, but because I never took it seriously, right? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, go on then, I'll do another meal plan. And, oh, yeah. It's not until I realised that I was overtraining and undereating that is what played a massive impact on how I was dealing with my hormones, and for that next chapter of becoming a mother. So has been very patient, very, very patient, because I was not an easy client, because I always thought I could do it my way. My way was better. I know different now. And she patiently has spent the last 12 months helping me get to where I am now, to say, without medication, without hormone replacement, without anything, that I'm ready to now, my female organs are working in the way that they should be for me to be able to have a family. And I didn't have that 12 months ago.
12 months.
12 months. And it's been a long 12 months.
Yeah.
And she's, put in a hard work. But anyway, for me, my next step is making sure that I have the skills and the knowledge to train the women pre, during and post.
Sure.
Pregnancy.
So wow, you've really found a place for yourself in this world. I
really have. And boxing led me there. Boxing led me there.
You're still going to train boxing though?
Absolutely. There's no way you won't.
Well, I was going to ask you if people want to contact you.
Yes.
After hearing this podcast.
Oh gosh.
If people do want to contact you.
And call me a hippie, go ahead. I'll take that on board too.
I don't think they'll call you anything. But where can they contact you?
Mainly through my Instagram or through Anarchy at the moment, because I run the group classes there, but I'm also working as a personal trainer full time out of there.
Cyla Maguire.
Yeah, Cyla Maguire.
I'll put the name in the notes.
Yeah, thank you. But it's that's where you can contact me, and I've got a wide range and plenty of space for a wide range of clientele.
Have you?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I say plenty of space, I mean I'll create the space. But as in, my clients range from weight loss to body maintenance to wanting to fall pregnant to boxing. I have quite a few boxing clients, male clients. They love it, quite technical. So, yeah, I have room for all of it.
Right.
I'll have a niche, but I will not limit myself. It'll be a mixed broad of
How are the classes at Anarchy now since I've been there? I think I haven't been there in 6 months or
pumping.
Is it?
Oh
well, I look at it all the time on the Instagram stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
it's some new gear in there as well.
Yeah, there is some new gear in there. Glenn got some new carpets put down, which is awesome.
You still got that fucking sled, the demon.
It's not the demon. You have to. Do you know what? The new carpet makes it go faster. So if you want to come and do the sled, come and do it now because you feel like a machine. You're like, yeah.
Well, do you know what? I want to get Glenn on.
Yeah.
I've already spoken to Glenn. I think but now at least I've got schedules coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
And Cameron. So I've wanted to get Cam on for a long time because I would like to talk to him about his art. He's a great artist. Did you know?
Yeah, I did.
He's a great artist, and
he's a great human being in general.
He is. I always get on with Cam.
I've got a lot of time for Cam.
So Cam and Austin, I'm wanting to bring on and have a chat. But I'm really happy I finally got you on because I do know your journey will relate to a lot. Could relate to a lot of people out there.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And to be honest with you, when you first brought it up, I think it was before we both went on holiday last year, I was reluctant. Because I didn't feel I had anything to say.
A lot of people, well, everyone says that.
Who am I? Well, what do I have to say?
Yeah.
But I'm backing myself. So, yeah, and I'm like, you know what?
Well, you've proven it, Carla.
I got a shitload to say. As you can tell.
Well, you're here now.
Yeah, exactly.
From where you've come from.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm looking forward to growing as a person, and it's so nice to have people like yourself around me that are inspiring as well, where you find something you love and you go with it and you're like, you believe in yourself. And I find now that I'm in that mindset, I'm attracting likewise people
there you go.
like yourself that are in my life.
Yeah.
And
we'll be there for a long time.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
Well, how long's forever? Forever is as long as you want it. But yeah, it's and you know what? I'm looking forward to studying and getting to that point where I have all this knowledge behind me to help women at the most vulnerable time. At the most vulnerable time. And it might only be a short time of their life that they're that vulnerable, but I want them to know that they've got somebody that will hold their hand through it.
Yeah.
Like with my vulnerable time, I've got someone holding my hand through it.
Yeah.
It's a different level. So it's important for me. It's very important for me.
Well, I'm hell of a proud of you.
Thank you. I'm proud of myself.
I know.
I'm proud of myself
See,
now.
for you to even say that,
I could.
It means
I wouldn't have.
It means a massive growth.
I wouldn't have 6 months ago.
But
no way.
Yeah. No, I'm proud, and I'm hoping you'd come back in a year or so.
Yes.
Maybe with a little bub.
Maybe.
Yeah. And just to see what that journey is from your next stage in your life.
Yeah,
to see how that's going.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, doll.
Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.